All right, traders, welcome back. So I got an interesting start today. Before I start with our topic, take an early morning run to my local coffee place, right? I go, get it, bring it to the counter. I have these little reward apps, you get points or something or free coffee and specials if you keep like logging your app. So I give her my phone, right? She goes boop like this, and on the way back, her hand hits my coffee and spills all over the counter. And she had like you could tell like overnight audit reports and stuff, like all over, and they're just gone. It was like an epic fail. And you ever have those mornings? And I felt bad for her, but and then you start thinking, could I have done something differently? And more importantly, and you get in the car and you're like, should I even be trading today? That just is one of those days. Um, and I got meetings today and everything. It's just a pretty full slate. But I have to admit, it's a hell of a way to start your day. I don't know if you ever had that. And does it impact your trading? It does for me. I'm going to be thinking about it all day now. So, but anyway, we'll get to the question. Really interesting topic today. Thank you for your questions. All right, Mike, what do you wish you knew before you became full time? Very interesting. I had to take a lot of time to think about this, right? But I want to share it with you, not just to tell you what I thought I wish I did, but really to help you with some solutions that maybe you're going through as a developing trader. I think it's really, really valuable stuff. Stick around. We'll get right to it. All right, so let's get going. I got my coffee nice and sealed. Hopefully, the postman doesn't ring twice. All right. So in this particular video, I want really some cool takeaways. One, to show that we're just human, even full-time traders. We're just all human. We make the same mistakes. And one of the things I do as a coach, and I really try to make sure I focus on, is when I'm talking to a developing trader, I want to bring myself back to that place because I went through the same things. I made all the mistakes. And I've really understood that, I wish I had done things differently, but they're doing the same thing that I did. So I have to respect and appreciate it. And I never want to talk above them. I always want to understand their level because I experienced it. And that's what really I think makes a true coach as opposed to just like hiring some consultant to do that type of work. I don't know. Hopefully the feedback has been pretty good so far. I'll run with that. But here are some of the things I want you to think about as you're developing, and some of the things I wish I had changed. And if I had to do it all over again, these would not be part of my list. All right, let's start with number one. I would stop and smell the roses more along the journey. I know it's frustrating that two steps up, one step back, or maybe it's two steps back and one step up, particularly in the early stages. But I really should have appreciated the learning process. And I know we all want to do it quick, get it done. ChatGPT, give me a strategy, that kind of stuff. But really, that journey and that learning process is something that sticks with you. And sometimes you just have to touch the hot stove. And, while we're aggressively trying to just go as fast as we possibly can, well, part of the learning process and part of the building your muscle is touching the hot stove. So I wish I sort of stopped and smelled the roses and said, you know what? I'm embarking on something that's really effing cool. And I think on a daily basis, sometimes the traders lose that. They're just so focused on getting green for the day and things like that. But understand that this is a journey that could really, open the doors to, your life's goals and dreams and ultimately your why and hopefully benefit your family. So take a step back. It doesn't have to get all like spiritual in the morning or anything, but just take a second and say, man, we're involved in a business that is pretty cool. All right, next. Have a why that's different than just making a lot of money. We all have that. We all deep down know, well, that's what we want to do. But what is the why? Really take a deeper dive and say, what's the purpose? And that should be the driver of your motivation and ultimately your success. There's going to be days where you're just not into it. But you say, you know what, I had a couple losing days, market sucks, tweets are killing me, that kind of stuff. But when you have sort of a why and a purpose, maybe even a picture on the corner of your screen, say, this is why I'm doing this. It gives you that little extra boost to kind of trudge through those little rough times, maybe in a drawdown. So I wish I had more of a why, more of a purpose. As I've got older and became full time, and actually that why has changed a little bit now. I'm more of a sort of a giving back, sort of philanthropic mindset. That's okay for your why to change, but in the beginning, just make sure it's not just P&L. I get it; we all want the P&L, but have a deeper source, and it gives you that deeper motivation to succeed during those rough times. The number three, really important. I wish I had done this. Is look at my trader education but make it go beyond trading. I was reading all the books, right? Trading in the Zone, the Douglases, all the things like that about strategies and how to be a good trader. But really, what I should have done and make it part of the mix, a dominant mix, to be honest with you, is have more training in psychology, peak performance management, right? Business savvy, right? I developed those skills and learned outside in the corporate sector, but I really should have brought them more earlier into my trading journey. I think it would have played a much, much bigger role. Trader education, fantastic. But I think what makes us unique and special here is, and you could ask our members, is that we go beyond sort of that trader type training. I teach business savvy. I teach how to make decisions that are professional, how to make decisions. A lot of traders are good, but they just don't know how to make decisions. Should I zig? Should I zag? When to use your team appropriately, how to take advice, things like that. When to go against it, how to have the math to support your decisions. These are all sort of business savvy type work and really ultimately peak performance that makes you a better professional, which ultimately will make you a better trader. I know we're going sort of full circle there, but widen the scope of your trader education. All right. So once I started getting profitable, and I was kind of thinking about, quitting my job and going pro, is I started thinking the mindset of I'm just going to take all my profits and reinvest them in my account. So I'm going to build my account and just do the same things I'm normally doing, but increase size. Well, that's kind of true that to an extent, it's similar to some of the advice I give now. But the key difference, and I wish I did earlier, is don't reinvest all of it in your account. All right. There's plenty of time to build. Take some of those profits when you're starting to get profitable, even if it's small, and put it away. Put it into something else. Savings account, small bearing interest accounts. Nothing too crazy. All right. You want to build that. It gives you that peace of mind and knowledge that you have something on the side. And when that starts building, the equity curve on that, in a sense, is so flat. In fact, I'll give you a snapshot of one of my accounts that you just put in there. It's not going to get the best returns, but what it is going to do is fill my jug with abundance. All right, and that's so key. It's such an important part of the success process. Having a life of abundance, and really part of that is having like a little bit of a safety net, and that's it. Aside from if you have an emergency fund or things like that, taking profits, even as a small part, and putting it away. And what ultimately will happen is you'll have that working for you, where ultimately you reach that crossing point where you can have a lifestyle just based on that. You can keep trading, and that's great to increase your wealth, but you have that on the side. Also, it increases the mind of abundance where, okay, you have a bad day, but you know what? I earned some interest on that side, so I'm pretty good. It wasn't overall that bad. Think about that. I wish I had done that earlier. All right, next. And this is one I had to really think about, and I would have not put this on my list maybe 4 or 5 years ago, is I would have included a small portion of my trading for YOLO trades. Now, I'm not talking about throwing them against the wind and just like, 1 in a million chance type stuff like a biotech. Hopefully they get approved. But having some trades where maybe longer term, maybe they're longer term options, or just putting aside some money on something, you know what? I don't know. Yeah, this Bitcoin thing seems like it's sticking. It's not going away, kind of stuff. And when it was at maybe 15,000, per coin, or however they even label it, all right. I don't know, I wish I got in on that more earlier. I'm more involved in it now, but some of the things that I could have played a role in earlier in my trading career. I'm not talking about going for it every year and just like YOLOing my entire account, but having a small portion, even if it's like 3 to 5%. One, it can do really well, but more importantly, it gets you engaged in those markets. I can now have a conversation about digital assets with traders, all right? And actually, it's a decent part of my portfolio now. But in the past, I couldn't really do that. I'd meet people at conferences and really wouldn't know what they're talking about. But if I had a little skin in the game, even if I wasn't making a lot of money, I can sort of get engaged in those processes and maybe open the door to different opportunities. So I wish I had done that earlier. I've done it for the last 5 years, and they've really had a big impact on my results. My trading is done pretty consistently, but I'm relatively conservative. But some of those YOLO trades have really paid off. All right, next, and this one kind of pains me, but it's irks me. I really wish, and he's listening now, I could say, I really wish I paid more attention to my coach. All right. The things that he had taught me and told me, and I looked back at my notes from time to time and I go, how did I not carry that forward? I was so focused on setups, so focused on strategy. He would talk to me about, psychology and how you build your muscle and get discipline. And I'm like, you ever hear that, like Charlie Brown? If we have the rights to do it, but the Charlie Brown series, the teacher, like want, 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 that kind of thing. Just show me the setup and I'll be fine. All right. And at one point I actually like hated him. I left him and I was really mad at him, but I really think about it now. There are certain things that I come back and now I'm teaching those same type of principles and I'm getting our members sometimes say, hey Mike, that's great, but just show me the setups, so I kind of chuckle with it, but I understand, the whole circle of development, but boy, I wish I really listened to him more. All right, so back in the days, particularly when I was in the process of going, full time as a trader, I started just putting all my time and immersion into trading, charts, reading, studying, learning from others. And this is, in the infancy of online where there was a lot less information online, but you can get it. I was just totally immersing my entire life and it affected me, affected my family, affected my relationships. It really wasn't a good thing. And quite honestly, too much, you don't learn as much. It becomes like one big cloud. So I wish I had sort of balanced the activities in my life, gone out more. There were a lot of weekend nights where I said, nah, I got to look at charts. Boy, there was so many cool opportunities to meet other people, learn other things, and sort of get into a state of balance, which ultimately is abundance. And that really, I think, was one of the biggest killers in my growth plan throughout the early parts of my quote full-time career. All right, next, and we're doing good so far. All right, I wish I had built my success network. All right, I was so focused, and I'm relatively introverted, where I kind of like to do it myself and just focus on all the things I need. I had the tools and everything. Just leave me alone in the corner, and I'll get it done. But I realized as I progressed that anything you want to do in life to be successful, you kind of need a team. And I'm not talking about this big corporate structure or anything like that. And even a coach, to be honest with you, just have people around you that support you. Also, trader professionals that educate you. All right. And that sort of being part of the network where you give to them, they give back. And it really propelled my career once I started focusing more on that. And I have a lot of people to thank to sort of push me in that direction. I didn't believe in it. I just said, you know what? The more I study, the more I learn, the better I'll do. But it really came down to having that network where, you could help me with coding and you got this. Yeah, I have a strategy for you, that kind of thing. And it just propelled my career. So the key to, I think, this whole trading game, and I want to see more of it, is that power of community for members and traders to just really get involved and immersed in a group type setting. All right. It works. It's a sort of linear part of success management. And I think it works equally as well with traders. Start with even just having one other trader to be accountable for and watch your network grow. All right, and the last one is sort of confession time, but I wish I was a little more hard on myself when I made mistakes. I felt like I always had an excuse for everything. Tweets or this, or the markets suck, or Fridays, they're always killing me, or my trading room didn't have a trade late in the day to get me back to break even or something. I would always come up with these excuses, and at the end of the day, I really wasn't progressing. And I wish I had done that sort of differently. Confront it. Say, I screwed up. Or, you know what? I didn't screw up. The markets just didn't accommodate my trade. Like, be very specific in my trade journal. And I felt that I was just sort of like, everything was everybody's fault except for mine. But at the end of the day, I had to own it and take a grip on it. And I really instill that in my teachings now, too. And sometimes I come across as a little harsh, but I say how often is, when you're having a setback or something, or is a problem, say, is it you or is it the markets? And really, quite honestly, most of the time, it's the trader. And I was there, but I would discount the fact that it was my fault. So, and that eliminated the sort of need to learn from it. And once I sort of changed those ways, I noticed that, my progression accelerated. So I wish I had done that differently. It's in the past. It kind of still haunts me from time to time, but the best thing I can do now is own it more and make sure that the students that I teach develop the skill set so they own it as well. So I hope you got some good pointers out of this. It's sort of confession time a little bit, but I think it's important that I bring these to light and say, you know what? If you're learning and you're developing, now's the time to sort of not do the things that I did. All right, it's difficult. I actually had trouble putting some of these together. It was a little painful at times, but if it's going to help you, so much the better. We talked about abundance and trading from a state of abundance, and I always, preach how important that is to have a mindset of success. Click on the link below. We did a really cool mastermind call just on this abundant state and how to get there. It's not about wealth. It's about having a mindset that puts you in the box and driver's seat of success. All right, check it out. I'm really proud of this one. And let me know if you have any questions. Of course, leave your comments below. I hope you enjoyed this one. All right, confession time, a little difficult to do, but I hope you benefit from it. Have a good trading week, and we'll see you next time.